Hello, and welcome to Nocturnal Curiosity. I'm so glad you found your way here, because tonight we will embark on an unhurried journey through the hidden wonders of our own blue planet. Wherever you are in the world, let this be your moment to simply exist. Let the noise of the day fade away. Let the edges of reality soften, and let your thoughts settle like mist over a calm valley. Tonight, our main theme is exploring the most relaxing facts about the Earth to fall asleep to. Our home is not just a rock floating in space. It is an infinite tapestry, woven with astonishing natural phenomena, ancient wisdom, and mysteries that reach far beyond our everyday gaze. From the whispers of desert sands to the silent dance of the aurora. From mountains that breathe to creatures that defy the very concept of time. This science documentary is designed to let your mind detach from its worries as you explore biology, geology, and astronomy in a narration that is gentle, rhythmic, and deeply conducive to sleep. If this kind of peaceful exploration resonates with you, consider subscribing to Nocturnal Curiosity. It helps other curious souls find their refuge here. But for now, get comfortable. Adjust your pillow. Close your eyes if you wish, and breathe deeply. Let us begin this journey through the miracles of life on Earth. Before we begin our journey through the depths and the skies, pause for a moment with your own breath. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. There is a phenomenon called the keeling breathing, and it is exactly what it sounds like. Planet Earth breathes. Every year during the spring and summer of the Northern Hemisphere, trees and plants absorb carbon dioxide to grow, and the levels of that gas in the atmosphere fall measurably. Then, in autumn and winter, as leaves drop and organic matter decomposes, the levels rise again. This oscillation has been measured from a station at the summit of Mauna Loa volcano in Hawaii since 1958. And the graph those measurements produce looks exactly like that. A wave. A cycle that rises and falls with the regularity of a lung. The planet has a respiratory rhythm with a period of 1 year. And now return to your own breathing. Your cycle lasts a few seconds. The Earth's 12 months. But both exist. Both are real. And at this moment, they are happening at the same time, on completely different timescales, but perfectly interwoven. The planet is breathing with you tonight. There is another terrestrial rhythm that few people know about, the Schumann pulse. The Earth's atmosphere, in the space between the surface and the ionosphere, resonates at a frequency of approximately 7.8 cycles per second. This resonance is generated by lightning bolts, which strike around the world at a rate of 100 per second, creating a constant global electromagnetic vibration. 7.8 hertz. That same frequency is very close to the theta wave range of the human brain, the state we are in just before falling asleep. It is no coincidence that our bodies naturally feel in tune with the Earth as we cross the threshold of sleep. We are tuned to the planet, and the planet has been resonating at that frequency since long before any being existed that could listen. Let us begin at the deepest point, where silence is absolute. Beneath your feet, far beyond where any human tunnel has ever reached, lies a heart of fire. The Earth's inner core is a solid sphere of iron and nickel, almost as large as the moon. Its temperature ranges between 5,000 and 6,000 degrees Celsius. It is literally an inner sun. Most fascinatingly, despite this scorching heat, the core is solid due to the unimaginable pressure of the entire planet pushing toward the center. This core is not static. It rotates slightly faster than the rest of the planet, creating a giant dynamo that generates our magnetic field. This field is an invisible bubble of energy extending thousands of kilometers into space, deflecting the solar wind and allowing our atmosphere to remain intact. We are protected every single second by a shield born of deep fire. Moving up toward the surface, we find the crust, the skin of our world. This skin is not a single piece, but a set of tectonic plates floating on a layer of hot rock. These plates move at the same speed your fingernails grow. It is an imperceptible but unstoppable movement. Where these plates collide, the world's tallest mountains are born, like the Himalayas. Did you know that at the summit of Mount Everest, there are fossils of marine creatures? This reminds us that what today touches the clouds once rested on the floor of an ancient ocean. The Earth is an artist who never stops sculpting its own surface. Between the fiery core and the crust we walk upon lies a layer scientists call the mantle. It is the most voluminous part of the Earth, representing more than 80% of its total volume. The mantle is neither liquid nor solid in the everyday sense. It is rock that, on a geological scale, behaves like an extraordinarily viscous fluid. If you could compress millions of years into a single second, you would see the mantle flowing and convecting like hot water in a pot, with slow currents rising when the material is hotter and sinking as it cools. It is these currents that move the tectonic plates from below, as if they were floating on an incredibly slow but incredibly powerful conveyor belt. Where the mantle pushes upward with greater force, the hot material breaks through the crust and emerges as volcanoes. Volcanoes are the Earth's pressure valves. They are the way the planet releases heat accumulated over billions of years. And in doing so, they have created entire islands. The Hawaiian archipelago, for instance, did not exist 43 million years ago. It was created by a hotspot, a column of magma that pierces the crust from the mantle, and as the Pacific tectonic plate slowly moves over it, it keeps creating new islands one after another, like a giant stamp printing islands onto the ocean. The last island of the archipelago, the largest one, the one we simply call Hawaii today, is the youngest. And beneath the water to the southeast, the next one is already growing. It is called Loihi. It will not see the ocean's surface for about 10,000 years, but it already exists. It is already being built in silence, in the darkness, at the bottom of the sea. The Earth is always doing something, even when everything seems still. And there is something else about volcanoes that few people know. It was they who created our atmosphere. The first volcanoes of the young Earth expelled enormous quantities of water vapor, carbon dioxide, and other gases from the planet's interior to the surface. Over time, that vapor condensed into oceans. Primitive bacteria began converting carbon dioxide into oxygen. And little by little, in a process that took billions of years, the atmosphere you breathe today was formed. Every breath you take tonight is, in a sense, a gift from ancient volcanoes. Lifting our gaze to the forests, we find the lungs of the world. The Amazon is so vast that it creates its own climate. Through a process called evapotranspiration, the billions of trees in the Amazon pump water from the soil into the atmosphere. This vapor forms what scientists call flying rivers, invisible currents of moisture that carry more water than the Amazon River itself, but through the sky. This moisture travels thousands of kilometers, bringing rain to distant places and regulating the temperature of an entire continent. But the real magic happens underground. Trees are not solitary beings. They are connected by an immense fungal network known as mycorrhizae. Through this network, trees exchange sugars, nitrogen, and phosphorus. It has been observed that when a tree is sick, its neighbors send it nutrients through the fungi to try to save it. Even the mother trees, the oldest and wisest specimens, can recognize their own offspring and send them more resources to grow healthy. The forest is a collective intelligence, a community that cares for itself in the silence of the shade. Even plants have senses we are only beginning to understand. It has been discovered that some flowers can hear the buzzing of a bee. When they detect the specific frequency of a pollinator's wings, they instantly increase the sugar concentration in their nectar to make themselves more attractive. It is a real-time biological response, a silent conversation between the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom that has been occurring for millions of years. Trees also communicate through the air. When a tree is attacked by insects or herbivores, it releases volatile chemical compounds into the air, molecules that drift between the branches and which neighboring trees can detect. Upon receiving these chemical signals, nearby trees begin producing bitter or toxic substances in their leaves before the attacker reaches them. They prepare for the threat in advance, thanks to an invisible warning received on the air. It is a forest alarm system, an early warning network operating in silence all around us in every forest on Earth. The African acacia, for instance, when it begins to be eaten by giraffes, releases ethylene gas into the air. Nearby acacias detect that gas, and within minutes increase the level of tannins in their leaves, making them bitter and indigestible. The giraffes know this, but that is why they move through the trees in the direction opposite to the wind, searching for those that have not yet received the alarm signal. An animal that has learned to read the chemical language of trees. A conversation between species that has been occurring for millions of years, completely invisible to us. There is one type of tree that deserves its own moment of silence: the baobab. The baobabs of Madagascar and sub-Saharan Africa can live for more than 2,000 years. But what makes them extraordinary is not only their longevity, it is their inner architecture. An adult baobab can store up to 100,000 liters of water in its spongy trunk, a reserve that allows it to survive months of absolute drought, and that also provides moisture to the animals and plants living nearby. They are called the trees of life, and it is not a metaphor. They are literally water sources in drought, shelter in storms, food in scarcity. Their fruits, known as monkey bread, contain more vitamin C than oranges and more calcium than milk. A single tree that is, at the same time, pharmacy, cistern, pantry, and shelter. An ecosystem unto itself. And then there is bamboo. Technically a grass, not a tree. But it is the fastest growing plant in the world. Some species can grow 90 centimeters in a single day. A bamboo that reached your knee in the morning might be taller than you by the following night. There is a mystery in bamboo that still intrigues scientists. They flower en masse. Entire species of bamboo spread across thousands of kilometers, all flower at the same time, produce seeds, and then die. The cycle may occur every 30, 40, or 120 years depending on the species, and every individual of that species, regardless of where they are in the world, does it simultaneously. How they coordinate that inner clock, how they know when the moment has come, remains an enigma. Bamboo keeps its own secrets, In the animal kingdom, there are creatures that seem drawn from a science fiction story. Let us talk about the immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii. This tiny creature has the ability to restart its life cycle. If it falls ill or grows old, its cells transform, and it returns to its polyp stage, being reborn. It is the only known animal to have found the secret of eternal youth, reminding us that death, in nature, is sometimes just one option. In the depths of the ocean, we find the octopus, a being of alien intelligence. They have 3 hearts, blue blood, and 2/3 of their neurons are not in their brain, but in their tentacles. This means that each arm can think and make decisions on its own, exploring crevices and hunting, while the central brain attends to other tasks. They can also change color and texture in less than a second to blend with their surroundings, a dance of camouflage that is pure visual poetry. At the other end of the size spectrum, we find tardigrades. These microscopic water bears are the ultimate survivors. They can enter a state of suspended animation called cryptobiosis, in which they lose 99% of their water and their metabolism nearly stops entirely. In this state, they can survive decades without food, withstand abyssal pressures and temperatures that would freeze the air. They teach us that life is tenacious, persistent, and always finds a way to wait for the right conditions to return. The animal world still hides more marvels that we have barely begun to understand. Manta rays are the largest fish without teeth. They glide through the ocean with a grace that seems to defy their size, their pectoral fins moving like wings in slow motion. But what is least known about them is that they have the largest brain relative to body size of all fish, and they have demonstrated the ability to recognize themselves in a mirror, a skill until recently thought to be exclusive to mammals and only a very few bird species. The manta ray, in silence, looking at itself in the water as in a mirror, recognizes itself. Humpback whales compose songs, complete songs with structure, repetition, and variations that can last for hours, and these songs change every year. The entire male population in a given ocean learns the new version of the song and sings it together in synchrony, without ever having seen each other in person, passing modifications from individual to individual, the way a fashion trend or a cultural movement spreads. Scientists who study this phenomenon use the word culture to describe it, because that is what it is: a tradition learned, transmitted, and modified socially among individuals of the same species. A musical culture that has been evolving for millions of years in the depths of the ocean. Ravens are, perhaps, the most astonishing beings in the world of birds. They solve problems requiring multiple steps of reasoning. They craft tools. They remember the faces of human beings with whom they have had experiences, positive or negative, for years, and adjust their behavior accordingly. And they do something even more extraordinary. They play. Ravens have been observed sliding repeatedly down snowy slopes, purely for the pleasure of it, playing with objects that are not food and serve no practical purpose, seeking entertainment, experiencing something that, if we saw it in a child, we would call joy without hesitation. Joy is not a human invention. It is far older than us. And in the deep ocean, there exists a creature that lights its own way in absolute darkness. The lanternfish of the depths. In the mesopelagic zone, between 200 and 1,000 meters deep, where sunlight never reaches, 75% of fish produce their own light through bioluminescence. Some use it to attract prey, others to communicate with mates, others to confuse predators. It is a completely dark world where every being carries its own lamp. A civilization of cold lights in permanent darkness that has existed for hundreds of millions of years without any human eye ever having seen it. Let us talk about the lights that adorn our nights. The northern lights and the southern lights are the result of a cosmic collision. Charged particles from the sun travel through space and collide with the gases of our atmosphere. The Earth's magnetic field guides them toward the poles, where they release energy in the form of light. Oxygen creates the greens and reds, while nitrogen produces the blues and violets. Seeing an aurora is witnessing our planet's protection turned into art. But the sky is not the only thing that glows. The sea does too. The phenomenon of bioluminescence occurs when tiny organisms called dinoflagellates are agitated. When a wave breaks or a fish swims through them, they emit a flash of neon blue. In some bays of the world, the water seems filled with liquid stars. It is a form of communication and defense, a cold light that does not burn, created by the pure chemistry of life. Even the sound of the desert has its own relaxing science. In certain places in China, Africa, and the Americas, there exist singing sands. When the wind blows across the dunes, or someone walks on them, the grains of sand rub against each other at such a perfect frequency that they create a deep hum, similar to Gregorian chant or the sound of a cello. It is the earth itself humming a rhythmic melody that can last several minutes, a lullaby made of quartz and wind. Water is the strangest substance on the planet, and I say this in a scientific sense. Almost every known substance contracts when cooled and expands when heated. Water does something different. When cooled below 4 degrees Celsius, instead of contracting, it expands. Ice takes up more space than liquid water, and that is why it floats. That may seem like a minor detail, but it is one of the most important facts in the history of life on Earth. If ice sank instead of floating, lakes and oceans would freeze from the bottom up. Summer heat could only thaw a few meters of the surface. The oceans, during ice ages, would have frozen completely to their depths. Marine life as we know it would have been impossible. This small physical anomaly of water is, in part, the reason life exists on this planet. The water cycle is also far older than we imagine. The water on Earth today has been here since the planet's beginning, 4.5 billion years ago. It is neither created nor destroyed. It transforms. The water you drink tonight has been ocean, has been cloud, has been river, lake, glacier, rain. It has passed through dinosaurs and ferns and fish in oceans that no longer exist. A molecule of water now in your blood may have fallen as rain over the Cretaceous jungle 66 million years ago. It may have formed part of a glacier that covered Europe 20,000 years ago. It may have crossed the Mediterranean in a Roman vessel. Water has no history of its own, but it has been present in every history. Ice caves also keep an archive of time. Glaciers accumulate layers of snow year after year, and those layers become trapped, compressed into ice, with the air bubbles of their era intact within. When scientists drill into those glaciers and extract ice cores, they can read the composition of the atmosphere from 800,000 years ago. They can know what the climate was like before modern humans existed. The glacier is a library. Its shelves are layers of ice. Its books are ancient air bubbles. And some of those books of ice are disappearing, melting. Along with them, An irreplaceable archive of the planet's past is being lost. Nature is an engineer without equal. Consider coral reefs. Although they look like rocks, they are structures built by millions of tiny animals called polyps. These small architects extract calcium from the water to build their skeletons, creating the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. Reefs protect coastlines from storms and are home to a quarter of all marine life. They are living cities, built with the patience of centuries. And speaking of patience, we must look at the oldest trees. There is a pine in the mountains of California called Methuselah that is almost 5,000 years old. This tree was already alive when the first pyramids of Egypt were built. It has watched empires rise and fall, climate changes, and entire generations of humans, all while remaining still, growing just a few millimeters each decade. The longevity of trees offers us a different perspective on time, a reminder that slowness is often a strength. Even within us, time flows in astonishing ways. Every 7 years or so, almost all the cells in your body have been replaced. You are not physically the same person you were a decade ago. Your bones, your skin, your organs renew themselves constantly. You are a river that always flows, a structure that stays the same while its components change. This capacity for inner renewal is what keeps us alive and connected to the regeneration cycle of the whole planet. There is a concept that geologists call deep time, and it is difficult to hold in the mind because our intuition is not designed for it. The Earth is 4.5 billion years old. If you compress that history into a single calendar year, modern humans appear in the last 16 seconds of 31st December. Everything we consider history, from the pyramids to the telephone, happened in the final second of that year. Dinosaurs existed for 180 million years. In that same compressed calendar, they reigned from December 12th to the 26th. We have been here an instant. This perspective should not make us feel insignificant. It should make us feel humble and awed. We are newcomers here. We are still learning how this planet we inhabit works. And the planet has been running in perfect harmony since long before we existed to observe it. In the oldest rocks on Earth, in formations such as the Acasta Belt in Canada, there are zircon crystals 4 billion years old. They are the oldest objects formed on Earth that we can touch. A crystal the size of a grain of sand that already existed when the Earth was still young and the primitive ocean was beginning to form. There are museums where you can hold those minerals in the palm of your hand. 4 billion years of history fit in your hand. And geological time continues advancing right now, tonight, as you sleep. Somewhere on the ocean floor, new igneous rocks are forming where two plates separate and magma rises to fill the space. Somewhere in the Himalayas, the mountains are growing a few more millimeters. Somewhere along a coastline, waves are patiently carving cliffs, carrying away small rock particles that will one day be sand, and that sand will one day be the floor of a new sea. The Earth never stops. It works without rest, in silence, unhurried, without pause. And you, tonight, deserve to do exactly the opposite. Stop. Rest. Trust that the planet continues its work while you rest from yours. Let us talk about how life adapts to the impossible. In the most arid deserts, there are seeds that can wait beneath the sand for 20 years. They are not dead, merely sleeping. The moment an unusual rain falls, these seeds awaken within hours, covering the desert in flowers in a phenomenon called the blooming desert. It is an explosion of color that lasts only a few days before returning to sleep for another 2 decades. In the world of birds, the common swift is a master of the air. These birds can spend up to 10 months flying without landing once. They eat, mate, and even sleep while in flight. To sleep, they switch off only half their brain at a time, keeping the other half alert to navigate and stay aloft. This mental duality allows them to exist in a state of perpetual movement, a dream in full flight above the clouds. And we cannot forget the elephants. These giants have a deep emotional memory. They can recognize the bones of their ancestors and show signs of grief, touching the remains with their trunks in solemn silence. They have an infrasonic language, sounds so low that humans cannot hear them, but that they can sense through their feet from kilometers away. The earth, for an elephant, is a map of vibrations and memories, a web of connections that goes beyond what our senses perceive. Life on Earth has found ways to thrive in places that seem absolutely hostile to any form of existence. At hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, where water exits at more than 400 degrees Celsius and is laden with hydrogen sulfide, a poisonous gas. There are entire communities of organisms that do not depend on sunlight at all. Bacteria that obtain their energy from sulfur chemistry. Giant tube worms more than 2 meters long that live in symbiosis with those bacteria. Crabs that cultivate gardens of bacteria on their especially hairy claws. These ecosystems function without the sun, without photosynthesis, without any of the rules we thought were universal to life. And they have been functioning this way for millions of years in the darkness of the deep seabed. They remind us that life is more inventive than any constraint we might try to impose on it. At the other extreme, in the world's most concentrated salt flats, lakes where the salt is so dense that the water looks like a solid mirror and no fish could survive even a minute, there thrive organisms called halophiles. Archaea and bacteria that not only tolerate that extreme salt, but need it to live. Some produce pigments that dye those salt flats a deep pink or red, creating landscapes that look like surrealist paintings. Flamingos, those long-legged birds with vivid plumage, feed on those microorganisms. Their pink color is not native to their biology. They borrow it from the pigments of the bacteria they eat. The color of the flamingo is literally the color of life in extreme conditions. And then there is the wood frog of the Canadian Arctic, which every winter literally freezes solid. Its heart stops, its breathing ceases, its organs are encased in ice for months. Any other creature frozen to that degree would die immediately. But the wood frog produces large amounts of glucose, a sugar that acts as a natural antifreeze inside its cells, protecting them from damage. And when spring comes and the ice melts, the frog's heart begins to beat again. Its lungs inflate anew, its muscles reactivate, and the frog leaps from the ice as if nothing had happened, returning from the dead every spring for millions of years. And speaking of rest, let us talk about sleep in nature. Virtually all animals sleep in some form. Even those without a brain in the conventional sense, such as the hydra, a small freshwater animal with only a few neurons, show patterns of activity and rest that scientists consider a primitive form of sleep. Sleep is as ancient as complex life, and we still do not know precisely what it is for. We know that without it, animals fall ill and die. We know that during sleep, the brain processes memories, clears metabolic waste, and consolidates learning. But the deep evolutionary reason for sleep remains one of biology's great mysteries. Perhaps it is enough to know that it is necessary, that nature, in its immense wisdom accumulated over millions of years, decided that all its more complex beings would need regular periods of quiet and restoration. Sleep is not weakness. It is evolutionary wisdom. Dolphins, like swifts, sleep with only half their brain at a time, and the other half stays active to keep swimming and surfacing to breathe. The eyes of a sleeping dolphin, one closed, one open. Bats sleep hanging from cave ceilings in the dark, in groups of millions, generating collective warmth that helps them conserve energy. A cloud of warm life in the darkness. Sea otters sleep floating on the ocean's surface. To avoid drifting apart while they sleep, they hold each other's hands or wrap themselves in kelp that anchors their bodies to the seabed without requiring any movement. A sea otter sleeping hand in hand with another sea otter floating on the cold ocean is perhaps one of the most tender images that exists in nature. Rest unites, rest nurtures, even among otters. To finish relaxing our minds, let us look upward. You are not alone on a rock. You are part of the cosmos. Every atom of calcium in your bones, every atom of iron in your blood, and the carbon in your cells was forged inside a star that exploded billions of years ago. When a massive star dies, it scatters its elements across space, elements that eventually came together to form our solar system, and finally, you. You are, literally, stardust that has come to life to contemplate itself. The light you see from the stars at night has traveled for thousands of years to reach your eyes. To see the night sky is to look into the past, to connect with the history of the universe. The immensity of space should not make us feel small, but special. We are the way the universe experiences its own beauty. Even the moon, our constant companion, has a history of union with us. It is believed to have been born from a collision between the young Earth and a planet the size of Mars. The moon is a fragment of our own world, placed there to stabilize our rotation and create the tides. It regulates the rhythm of marine life and has been humanity's biological clock since the very beginning. Its silver light is a reflection of our own sun, a gentle lamp that accompanies us in this rest. There is something we know about the universe that is difficult to fully grasp. Most of what exists is invisible. 5% of the universe is made of ordinary matter, the matter that forms stars, planets, oceans, trees, your body. Just 5%. 27% is dark matter, a substance that emits and absorbs no light, that interacts with nothing we know except through gravity, and whose nature we still do not understand. The remaining 68% is dark energy, a force that pushes the universe to expand ever faster, and about which we know even less. We are a visible rarity in a mostly invisible universe. Islands of light and matter in an ocean of mystery. And that, curiously, makes our existence even more extraordinary. We are the part of the universe that can ask itself what the universe is. There is a concept that some astronomers call the pale blue dot perspective. In 1990, the Voyager 1 probe, when it was already more than 6 billion kilometers from Earth, was turned around to take a photograph of our planet from that distance. In that photograph, Earth appears as a tiny pale blue dot, suspended in a ray of sunlight, floating in the darkness of space. All of human history, all the wars and peaces, all the cities and oceans, all the living beings that have ever existed, fit in that barely visible point. Seeing that image is an experience that shifts perspective, not because it makes us feel small, but because it makes us feel that everything that happens on that dot is extraordinarily precious, because it is all there is. And on that pale blue dot tonight, you are resting, breathing, letting your mind grow still. While the planet turns, while the stars shine from distances our minds cannot truly fathom, while the moon gently pulls at the ocean, you are here, at peace, on that small point of light in space. That is enough, more than enough. It is everything. The Earth produces sounds that humans cannot hear directly. When earthquakes generate infrasonic waves that travel through the planet's interior and can be detected on the other side of the world. Scientists have used these waves as a kind of planetary ultrasound to map the internal layers of the Earth, in the same way doctors use sound to see inside the body. Blue whales produce the lowest frequency sound in the animal kingdom, rumbles of between 10 and 40 hertz that travel through the ocean for thousands of kilometers. At those frequencies, the ocean becomes transparent to sound. A whale in the Atlantic can, in theory, hear another whale in the Pacific. The entire ocean is a global-scale acoustic communication system. Even the sun produces sounds. Acoustic waves generated by the plasma storms bubbling on its surface, with periods of 5 minutes and amplitudes of kilometers. If we could hear them, the sun would sound like a deep wind instrument, producing notes far below the threshold of human hearing. Astronomers have detected these oscillations and used them to study the sun's interior with astonishing precision. The universe is full of sound, only in frequencies and on scales that go beyond our senses. There is a place in the world where silence is nearly total. The inside of anechoic chambers, rooms designed to absorb all sound. People who remain in them for more than a few minutes begin to hear the sounds of their own body, the beating of the heart, the flow of blood in the ears, the creaking of joints. In total silence, the human body is not silent. There is always a sound. There is always life. There is always movement. Even in the deepest rest, your heart beats, your blood flows, your cells work. You are a miniature universe that never fully stops, always doing something, even when you believe you are doing nothing. Tonight, we have journeyed through the planet's interior, its forests and oceans, its creatures and skies, through deep time and the distant cosmos. And there is one thread that connects everything we have seen. Everything is connected. The fiery core creates the magnetic field that protects the atmosphere that allows the oceans to exist, that regulate the climate that makes forests possible, that produce the oxygen that animals breathe, that fertilize the soil, that nourishes the trees, that communicate through fungi, that absorb nutrients that return to the soil when earlier creatures died. It is a chain with no beginning and no end, a cycle that feeds itself. And you are inside that cycle, not as an outside observer, as part of it. The oxygen you breathe now was produced hours ago by trees somewhere. The water in your blood has been ocean and glacier and rain and river. The minerals in your bones came from rock that was once magma. You do not visit nature when you go for a walk. You are nature. Nature folded back upon itself in a form that can ask itself what nature is. In biology, there is the concept of symbiosis, two different organisms that mutually benefit from living together, mycorrhizae and trees, flowers and bees, humans and gut bacteria, of which we have more cells in our bodies than our own cells. But the greatest symbiosis of all is the one that exists between all living beings and the planet that sustains them. A symbiosis of 4 billion years in which life has modified the planet and the planet has modified life, in a constant and endless dialogue that has produced everything that exists. You are part of that conversation, even if tonight your only contribution is to rest. That counts too. That too is part of the cycle. And so, as we travel through these marvelous facts, we feel our body growing heavier and our breathing slower. We have journeyed from the burning core to the distant stars, passing through forests that speak and seas that glow. The earth is a place of constant renewal, of resilience, and of a beauty that often unfolds in complete silence. Just like the Methuselah tree growing on its mountain, or the seed waiting in the desert, you too have a right to your time of stillness. Rest is not time wasted. It is the process by which your body repairs itself and your mind organizes its treasures. Let these scientific facts, these miracles of biology and physics, become the backdrop of your dreams. Sleep with the peace of knowing you are part of a perfect, immense, and profoundly wise system. The planet will keep turning, the trees will keep breathing, and the stars will keep shining while you rest. Thank you for joining me on Nocturnal Curiosity. If this journey has brought you peace, remember that you can always return to this refuge.